Prabhupada, I'm explaining the Chara Source that the seeds were language. Abhishana Rinda Bhagwan Swami Prabhupada King. iskcon founder, Prabhupada founder, Prabhupada King. Jai Vishnu Prabhupada amongst the Bhakti Chara Source that the seeds must be the Bhakti Swami Maharaj Prabhupada King. Ananda Vaishnava Rinda Ki, Namaskar, Hare Saka Ki Jai. Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavan Nityananda. Shri Ratha Festival Bhakti Rinda Ki. Radha Krishna Gopinath. Shamakun Radhakun, Gil Gopadama Ki, Vasura Vrindavan Dhamma Ki, Avri Mayapur Dhamma Ki, Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki, Shri Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki, Köln Kshetra Dham Ki, Yamuna Mai Ganga Mai Ki, Kimat Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi, Shri Harinath Sankirtan Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Savita Bhakti Rinda Ki, Lord Jagannath Ratha Yatra today Ki, Jagannath Mahotsav, Ratha Yatra Ki, Jagannath Rathyatra Festival Ki, Go permanently, close down the devotees, 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 close Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So thank you very much for what time is Prasanam? Maybe a special schedule today. What time we should finish the class? What time we should finish the class? Huh?
Till 9 o'clock.
Okay. So I thought of something I reminded of something we did in Villa Vrindavan recently. And on their Ratha Yatra day, we heard from this book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, by my brother Shama Sundardas. It's interesting. It talks about the first Ratha Yatra in the Western world, and in San Francisco. So, anyone interested?
Yes.
Yeah? We can also hear from Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord's ecstatic dancing at Ratha Yatra. If you could find that volume, CC. But this is very interesting also. And it makes us remember how this movement has started, and Ratha Yatra has started. And it's very nice. There's even pictures of the very first Ratha Yatra. And now it's become an institution, Ratha Yatra festivals. And but then it was a completely new thing. It was amazing. And so I'll try and find that section. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare. So the first Ratha Yatra was in 1968. So how did it happen? How did it come about, the Ratha Yatra? Actually, it was 1967. It wasn't 68. 68 was the second one in San Francisco. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, 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 Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Remember that, you know, actually the movement started in New York. Prabhupada started the movement in New York. And there was no Ratha Yatra in New York. But when Prabhupada went to San Francisco, that was the time of the, you know, gathering of the tribes of all the hippies in San Francisco. So there, it was a wonderful occurrence, which I want to read about. Jagannath Swami Ayana Patagami Bhavatumi. Boom. Jagannath Swami Ayana Patagami Bhavatumi. Jagannath Swami Ayana Patagami Ayatumi. That means, when will Lord Jagannath appear to me? So remember, Prabhupada was a Jagannath Bhakta from childhood, and even as a child, he performed Ratha Yatra ceremony. You know that famous story. Prabhupada was out with Abhay. Abhay Charan was Prabhupada's son, and Abhay saw a Ratha Yatra car in Calcutta. They sell them in the shops, in the hardware stores. There's wooden structures with wheels for children. And you know, because it's not just that Ratha Yatra goes on in Jagannath Puri, but all the kids, the children in Calcutta, they also like to have a Ratha Yatra. So that's a tradition in Bengal and in Orissa. On the Ratha Yatra day, and the children and other people, they have many Ratha Yatras in Calcutta, not just iskcon. If you read the newspaper, it says, iskcon Ratha Yatra, da, 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 and there's many other Ratha Yatras. So Avai was walking with his father, Guru Mohan. He saw this little structure with wheels, and he knew it was a Ratha. I want this. And I must have it, I must have a Ratha Yatra car. And it was too expensive. And Guru Mohan said, it's too expensive, I'm not buying it for that. So Abhay just burst into tears, just crying. He had a tantrum. I must have it. And then this little old lady came out. Oh, why is he crying? Who is this boy crying? Why is he crying? And she understood he wants a Ratha Yatra car. His father doesn't want to buy it, it's too expensive. She said, I have a Ratha Yatra card. I have a nice one. My children are grown up, we don't do it anymore. You can have that one? Oh, so then they went to the house and they got the old Ratha Yatra, little Ratha Yatra card. You know, maybe this high. You have to put the cloth on, you have to put decorations, paint it, everything. So Prabhupada from childhood, he was a Ratha Yatra man, and he organized everything. This is in Lilamrita, Prabhupada Lilamrita. He used to organize everything, make sure it was 7 days or so many days like the Puri Ratha Yatra. He had all his friends, and his parents, you know, they were engaged also in cooking, and so it was a big event around Harrison Road in Calcutta. Some of the Prabhupada's father's relatives said, oh, you didn't invite us? What is this? You didn't invite us to the Ratha Yatra? Jokingly. So Prabhupada went to America all alone, and he met the hippies in San Francisco, and then something wonderful happened. Ding, 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 ding. Now this is okay. On High Street, that's in San Francisco. One day in mid-February, this was in '67, I noticed a brightly painted wooden figurine there. It was about 3 inches high. What's this, Malati? Malati, Shamasunda's wife. What's this, Malati? Oh, I got it the other day at Costa Plus. It's from India. It was a whole barrel of them. How much was it? Well, let's say there was a big discount that day. She didn't pay it. What is it? I have no idea. But it says, made in India on the bottom. Aha. My scheming mind began to click. Maybe I can take this up to the Swami. This thing made in India. And ask him what it is. Get closer to him. Get some attention. Shamasundar was thinking. Malati, this is Malati speaking now. Malati. I had gone into Costa Plus imports, just wandering around, and I had no money. But I was looking at stuff from Mexico. I always wanted one of those embroidered Mexican jackets with pockets in the front. But the attraction wasn't the same anymore because she'd become a devotee. I wondered then what I was doing in there. But as I was leaving, in front of the cash register were these 3 wooden barrels, each full of different colorful painted figurines. I was attracted to a black one with big eyes and a red smile. I wonder who that was. Can anybody guess? I was attracted to a black one, and on the bottom was a little label made in India. So I thought, Swamiji is from India, the Maha Mantra is from India, I just put him in my pocket and walked out. Whenever you, this is now Shamasundar writing now, whenever you came to the Swami's door, your heart was in your throat. This feeling never left me, even after 1,000 trips to that door. There was a heightened sense that something marvelous was about to occur, a tingling in the blood. You never knew what to expect, just that it would be a wonderful surprise, whatever happened. He'd be sitting behind his little table or in his rocker, clicking his beads, dressed in saffron, maybe with a white sweater, sunlight through the south-facing window, shining on the freshly oiled head and his face as radiant gold, emerging from some deep bliss, and he would welcome you no matter what hour or of day or night. Dropping the doll in his outstretched hand, I said, Swamiji, we found this in a shop. It's from India. Can you tell us what it is? This startled look comes over the Swami's face. He's surprised. He leaps from his rocker and places the doll on his metal trunk and falls down on the floor before it, beckoning, down, 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 everyone. To Mukunda and me, who are trying to make sense of this and didn't know what's going on. We bow down beside him, and then he starts praying in Sanskrit. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Over and over he kept saying this. Flushed, that means face gone red and ecstatic. Flushed and beaming, the Swamiji rises and asks me, from where you have got this doll? Malati found it. Then tell her to come here immediately. You like the story? No?
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, I just finished. Wait for Prasadam. Malati found it. Then tell her to come here immediately. Malati. Is Malati speaking now? I was working in the temple one morning when someone came down and said, Swamiji wants to see you. So I turned off the flame, she was cooking, and ran upstairs, went in, and Shamasunda and Mukunda were there. And on Swamiji's metal trunk was that figurine. I thought, no, I'm busted again. Busted means I've done something illegal. Because she stole it from the shop. I busted him because previously she was lifting milk from the groceries because they had no money in the early days. So it was common that hippies used to steal things. So they used to get milk. And Swami said, where do you get all this milk? Where'd you get the money? And he chastised her for stealing the milk. So she thought, I busted again. Malati, you have found this? Yes. There are others? Oh, yes. A whole barrel full. No. 2 others? Yes, 2 more barrels with different figures. The Swamiji held up the little doll and said, this is Krishna. The other two figures will be Krishna's sister, Subhadra, and his brother, Balaram. Bring them. Amazing, no? Then we sat, and he told us the story of Lord Jagannath. Who wants to hear? Well, this is Shami Sundar's story. I know a very, very involved story from a recent tradition, all about how Maharaj Indradumna, he wanted a deity for his kingdom in Orissa. So he sent the secretaries and inspectors, detectives, find a deity somewhere in my kingdom. I've heard there's a deity of Nila Madhav, Blue Madhav. So they all went out searching. Nobody could find Nila Madhav, but one, his personal secretary, he never gave up. He went searching and searching and searching, and through many tribulations. He didn't want to come back without good news that he'd found Nila Madhav. Anyway, one night he ended up in a pig keeper's village, very low, called Sabaras. And he wanted somewhere to stay, knocked on the door. It was a village chief. And this is one of the stories. Of course, there was a beautiful daughter of the village chief. She was called Lalita. Lalita. And she welcomed him. Oh, he's the secretary of the king. So one thing led to another, and they got married. And so Vijayapati was very intelligent. Every day, the father, Vishvasu, came back every day at the same time, and he was smelling so nice, fragrant incense. What is this beautiful smell? And so he asked Lalita, his wife, where does he go every day? Where does he go? She said, I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you where he goes. Oh? But you're my wife now. You have to tell me. Well, my father will be angry if I tell you. But I have to tell you, he's going to worship Nila Madhav in the jungle. Now I found Nila Madhav. So then when Vishvasu heard, he was very angry. Why you told him he's the secretary of the king? Now he'll tell the king and the Nila Madhav will go. But the lilies prevailed on her father. Please take him to see Nila Madhav. He's searching for Nila Madhav. All right, but he must be blindfolded. Must be blindfolded so he doesn't know the way. So Vijayapati agreed, but he was very intelligent. Lalita, give me a bag of mustard seeds. Mustard seeds. So he had a bag of mustard seeds with him, with a little hole. So when Vishvasu was leading him through the jungle miles and miles, impossible to follow that jungle track up the mountain. Then mustard seeds were dropping down, all along the path. So when he came up the mountain, and there was a beautiful lake, a pool, and he saw one crow. Some or other, the crow died, old crow, into the pond. And he came out with 400 Vaikuntha form. Wow. I went back to Gauradesh. And Vijayapati knew this is the place. So then Vishvasu took him to to the cave, Singhasan, where he was worshipping Nila Madhav. And he saw beautiful Nila Madhav, blue Madhava, Krishna, blue Madhava. So he thought, oh no, I found Nila Madhav. But still Vishvasu didn't like it. So then he had to tell Vishvasu, now I have to go back to the king. And Vishvasu was thinking, oh no, my Nila Madhav is going to be taken by the king. He's so much in love with Nila Madhav. Anyhow, Vijayapati went back to the king and told the good news to Untitled Maharaj. Okay, bring my army, bring my commander-in-chief. I'm going to the place to get Nila Madhav. Boom, 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 boom. Clap your hands, come on. The army. Boom, 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 boom. And they arrived at the village. Where is this Vishvasu? Imprison him. Imprison the village chief. Where is my Nila Madhav? Heavy duty. So Vijayapati said, we just have to follow the mustard seeds. Now they've grown up. Yellow, 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 through the jungle. Follow the yellow path, yellow brick road. Up to and so the king was eager and eager and eager. So eager. And he went up to the place, to the cave. And what did he see? Nila Madhav gone. Not there. Oh no. Indra broke down. Oh no. My life is worthless without a deity in my kingdom. I'm the king of Orissa with no deity. I must have a deity. And now Nila Madhav's gone. I don't know where he went. Maybe. This is my speculation. Vishvasu, what did he do? Or maybe he just, Nila Madhav just disappeared. It's all Lila. So then, Untitled wanted to commit suicide. But then, he had a vision, or Krishna spoke to him, or Narada Muni spoke to him. I don't remember the detail. Don't worry, Nila Madhav will come. You go back to Jagannath, your capital, by the sea. Sisi Gauradesh king. See, what's his name? Nitai Gaurasundra, Nitai Dayalu? Huh?
Vijay Gauranga Dayanitai.
Vijay Gauranga Dayanitai. Vijay Gauranga Dayanitai king. You go back and these big logs, huge logs will come from the ocean. And then you get a carpenter to carve these logs, and Nila Madhav will then appear in the form of wood. Daru Brahman. Daru means wood. So, Vijayapati, they all went back to Puri, and lo and behold, these huge logs came in from the ocean. This is the story. And they couldn't move these logs. They couldn't move them. They had symbols on them. Shankar, Gadma, Pada, Padma. They couldn't move. They're so heavy. Like iron. Floating iron. They got elephants. They beat the elephants. They wouldn't move. And then Vishvasu, he was in prison, but he said, I can move them. So they let Vishvasu go down. He picked up the logs single-handedly and carried them to the palace. This was very auspicious, a wonderful occasion. Anyway, this is part of the story. Now let's hear what Shyama Sundar said. what Prabhupada said. Then we sat and Swami told us the story of Lord Jagannath. This is the real story. In ancient times, King Interdumna was anxious to worship the form of Krishna as Lord of the universe. In a dream, Krishna told him that on a certain beach he would find a huge log, and from the sea-born log he should have the deity carved. All sculptors who tried to carve the log failed. Their chisels broke. Finally, an old man who was really Krishna in disguise put his chisel to the wood and easily made his mark. The king was jubilant. Wow. But the old sculptor said that he would only carve Lord Krishna if he were allowed total privacy for 21 what, hours? Minutes? 21 days, yes. Okay. After 14 days had passed, the king, overcome by curiosity, entered the workplace. There he saw the forms of Lord Krishna, Subhadra and Balaram, with bodies, arms and legs unfinished, exactly as we see them today. Because the king had broken his promise by opening the doors 7 days earlier, Lord Jagannath manifested himself in this crude way as part of his sporting play with his devotees. So even this was Leela. He couldn't wait. And some say his wife, she said, I can't hear the chisel anymore. The chiseling has stopped. Maybe we should go in. Maybe the sculptor has died. Who knows? But we must enter. So there's some say like that. Anyway, the king entered untimely. So the deities were like that. The Swamiji looked at us and asked, is there anyone who can carve this statue big size? Swamiji asked. And he indicated a height of about 3 feet. I can do it, Swamiji, I said. I am a carpenter and I know how to carve wood. Shamsundar said. I thought, wow, this is really what people think of as an idol, an Indian idol. I thought Krishna was handsome and blue and played the flute. How will people, now they'll really think we're idol worshippers. But it's what the Swami wants. And now I can do something personally for him. This must be what he calls devotional service, direct service for my spiritual master, the real thing. You following my English?
Yes.
No? No. Do we need a translator? Obviously nobody understands English. What are we going to do? Huh?
They're from South Africa.
Why you don't say? You understand that? Okay. Don't be so shy, Speak up. Almost every day, the Swamiji had recited a certain verse from Bhagavad Gita, and I had written it down. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can one enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Who knows the Sanskrit? Bhakti Mahavijanati Yavan Yaschasmi Tatvata Tatomam Tatvada Tatomam Tatvada Jadma Vishate Talanantaram. Yeah, that's correct. Too much. If you enter into the mysteries of my understanding, too much. If I carve the first iskcon deities, it will be a second rhino in my bag. This is called chasing rhinos with the Swami. A wonderful thing. Rhino means a wonderful thing. You know, if somebody says, you know, catch a rhino or shoot a rhino, it's very big animals, huge, and you know. But if you might, so if somebody goes to try and catch a rhino, everyone will say, you'll never do it, impossible. You can never catch a rhino. Or you can shoot a rhino. But if you do it, everyone will say, you've done a wonderful thing. So this is what Shyamasuda said. He said, if I carve the first deities in iskcon, it'll be amazing. Gradually, we learn more about Lord Jagannath, that he stands 6 feet tall and he has a 6-foot arm span in his temple in Puri. Actually, it's bigger than that. It's 12 feet. I read a book about it's much bigger than 6 feet. I read a book all about it. Since time immemorial, millions of worshippers have gathered there to worship this immense form of Krishna. We learn that Jagannath means Lord of the universe, and that he is accompanied in Puri by his brother Balaram and sister Subhadra, who are equally large. Early British travellers wrote home about it, and Jagannath became Jagannath in English, something such as a force, campaign, or movement extremely large and powerful that cannot be stopped, an object which crushes whatever is in his path. But for now, it was just okay. This is God, Lord of the universe, and I got to carve him. Malati and a new devotee named Murari jumped into my truck, and we all drove down to Cleveland Wrecking Yard in South San Francisco. I said to the guy that ran the place, Malati called him Porky, because he was short, fat, and chewed a cigar, that we wanted to look around his yard for a very big piece of wood, because big pieces of wood, they floated in from the Pacific Ocean, and this guy had them in his yard. And Porky said, feel free. The place was spread out over many acres, but I finally spotted this huge Douglas fir timber that looked perfect. It was 3 feet wide by 14 inches thick and 12 feet long. 3 feet wide by 14 inches thick and 12 feet long. Better yet, it was from a dismantled barge. So like the story of Jagannath, the Swami had told us, it was a single large lung from the ocean. Somehow, we got it through the back door and into the van. They stole it. The wood stuck out the door about 6 feet, and our back bumper nearly touched the ground under the weight. We waited 10 minutes by the exit booth for Porky to show, honking the horn, but he was gone. They put the log in the van, and they waited for Porky to get permission to pay him, but he was gone and they went also. So we stole the little Jagannath, and we stole the wood from which to carve him. What kind of people were we? Krishna is the greatest thief, the Swami had told us. Krishna is the sole proprietor of everything, he said. So devotional service means to use everything for Krishna. Offer back to him whatever he has given. We took that kind of literally, we took it literally. We already felt special because we were hippies. The newly liberated, entitled generation who thought that everything should be free for us. The urges to self-expression and higher pursuit came first. So when the Swamiji told us stuff like, Krishna is the greatest thief, it was just what we liked to hear. Krishna was the greatest thief. I cut that big slab of wood into 3 4-foot sections out on the sidewalk in front of our High Street apartment, and I laid the pieces on the floor of our living room upstairs. I made elaborate calculations from the tiny statues, finally using the years of maths from the $250,000 education my folks had paid for, and sketched equivalent enlarged dimensions onto the blocks. When I had to saw and chisel and make noise and wood shavings, I dragged the blocks out of my apartment window onto the little portion of a flat roof overlooking Buena Vista Park. This was late February 1967. Slowly I formed the wooden bodies of God and his brother and sister. I occasionally went to the Swami's room to ask him technical questions like, can I use wood putty to fill the cracks? Or what is the symbol on Jagannath's head? So he was carving. Many days went by. The Swamiji started asking me, so what is the progress? When it will be ready? I stretched it out. A little work each day. Some days I do something else, like work for Peggy or Malati. We knew that Swamiji wouldn't leave San Francisco until the deity was installed in the temple. It was a job I probably could have done in a few days, but I wanted to prolong it and taste the juice of it and keep Swamiji with us and not in New York. Amazing. Just got to stretch my leg. Ooh. Din, 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 din. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pataka Bhava Jagannath Swami Nayana Pataka Bhava. One day in mid-March, I was in the apartment when Ralph barked. Ralph was the dog. And I heard a knock at the door. To my great surprise, there was a Swamiji, cane in hand, Upendra standing behind him. He must have walked a very strange mile down Hyde Street from the temple to my place. I bowed down, totally flustered, as the Swamiji floated in and said, so where is our Jagannath? I pointed to his big-eyed form standing upright against one wall. Balaram was flat on the floor, the white paint undercoat dry, but no detail yet on face or body. Subhadra was on the roof, partially carved. I started making excuses for my consistent delays. Oh, and what is this? The Swami gestured with his cane to a half-finished pack of Pall Mall cigarettes resting on the Lord's head. Swamiji was smoking Pall Mall cigarettes whilst he was carrying. Swamiji said, "What's this?" These are cigarettes, Swami. And with a flick of his cane, the Swami knocked the pack off Krishna's head and across the apartment, against the wall and into a corner. Got me? And then in parentheses, and then in brackets, Shyamasundar says, confidentially, "Hey, I thought I'd really cleaned up my act. All those years, the day started with a joint, then a needle in my arm, years on end, staying high all day, and night with whatever substance I could buy, beg or steal." So Shamsun was thinking, well, I'm only smoking cigarettes, I've cleaned up my act. I'm just smoking ordinary cigarettes. Malati. But Swamiji said, instead of chastising us, he said, yes, it is very difficult to give up. Do not let such a small thing as a stick of tobacco come between you and Krishna. Just smoke one less every day until it is finished. So he was saying, if you want to give this up, so he was saying, if you want Krishna, you want to give this up, here's how to do it. He didn't leave us stranded. He told us how to give up this bad habit. You must work faster. I have fixed the deity installation for March 23rd, Lord Chaitanya's birthday. He got me again. And I would have to buckle down and finish this fast. So it goes on and on, it's very far. But you want to hear about the first Ratha Yatra? Yeah?
Yeah.
So there's a description of how they installed Lord Jagannath. There had been adventures of Lord Jagannath. They took him to Hippie Hill. And so then, in early April, the Swamiji called me to his room after the morning lecture. He handed me a little drawing he'd made, some sort of wagon, and said, Lord Jagannath, there is one festival in India. He goes to the seaside to enjoy. And then he told the story of the Ratha Yatra Festival. Once every year, around the end of June or early July, exact date determined by astrologers, Lord Jagannath and his family take a 1-week vacation. They are brought out from the temple and placed on 3 huge wooden carts or ruts, which are pushed and pulled to the beach by throngs of celebrants. There they rest for a week before returning to the temple. This annual event has taken place in Puri since time immemorial, Swamiji said, and crowds of millions or more make it to the largest yearly festival in the world. These carts are made totally of wood and are super huge. Jagannath's cart alone stands 50 feet high, weighs 65 tons, rolls on 14 wheels, each 8 feet in diameter, and requires the lumber from 300 trees to make. Of course, we cannot make so big, and 3 routes will be too much endeavor. But if you can make 1 cart very big, that will be nice. Can you do it? The Swamiji had a flair for the spectacular, the hugely scaled, challenging the limits of what could be done. And we loved him for this. Big, yes, let's do it. A day or 2 later, he called me up again and said that he had been watching these big lorries. Took me a while to realize he meant trucks from his window. This big cart, he said, it will be too much work in a short time. So you can make on the back of 1 lorry or truck. He then sketched a modified version, a small truck with a simple house built behind the cab. He even added a puff of exhaust coming out of the back and motion lines like you see in cartoons. The Swami consulted his lunar calendar and chose a date. In 1967, Krishna and his brother and sister will go to the beach on July 9th and vacation there until July 16th. Wow. So now that we have a date, the devotees meet and we divide up the tasks. Mukunda and Haridas will obtain permits. I will supervise making the cart. Gauradesh will liaise with the diggers. And that's one group of hippies, they call the diggers. And enlist their help. Yamuna will decorate the cart once it's ready, and Malati and others will arrange for food and flowers. Now I had a big project, a service to do for Krishna, and the Swamiji while he was away in New York. But the best part, he never says he will return to San Francisco, but the best part, he says he will return to San Francisco for the festival. Another rhinoceros chase with the Swamis underway. Only the Swami could have conceived that Lord Jagannath, who could be misinterpreted by so many as a pagan idol, would capture the hearts of the hippies. You see, this is God. This is what he looks like. Okay, I can dig it. I often thought then and in the years since that maybe it would have been better to present Krishna to the world in his beautiful 3-bended pose, playing his flute along with his gorgeous girlfriend Radha. But this is how Krishna chose to come to hippie land, San Francisco. Insane, unreal, out of this world, Lord Jagannath, the perfect image of God for these times. So what about the festival? We have time to hear about the festival? the first Ratha Yatra Festival. Okay. So the Swamiji left for New York, and everybody missed Swamiji, and hoping he would come back for the Ratha Yatra. And so what happened then? So they're inviting him to this mantra rock dance in the Fillmore Hall, and different festivals. So Swamiji came back, and oh no, what to do? Oh no, here we go. Here we go. Swamiji arrived at the San Francisco airport on June 25. Again, to a rousing welcome, but this time we were greeting an intimate friend and confidential father and beloved commander who was back in action. Our joy knew no bounds. The Swamiji looked okay, a little tired. You could see he had suffered, but he was beaming and bouncing around like always. Jagannath drove him away at the time we could find our cars and get there. Swamiji had already been to the temple, greeted the deities, and taken off with Jagannath for his new digs in Paradiso, Stinson Beach. Prabhupada was a little sick. Hayagriva, Upendra, and Kirtananda stayed out with him there. In the meantime, Jagannath and I frantically finished the Ratha Yatra float, and the Radha and the other devotees plastered posters all over town, passed out thousands of leaflets, and gathered food and flowers for our first big public function since the mantra rock dance. Page Street runs up a steep hill, and the Ratha Yatra parade started at the base of the hill on the corner of Masonic. Hundreds of people had gathered. The cops were busy diverting traffic and maybe worrying about riots by these drug-crazed hippies. A tiny tiger generator buzzed, and amplified sounds of kirtan shook nearby windows. It was time to shove off. Any chance the Swami's coming, Mukunda? No, Hayagriva says he's just not going to make it over today. Not? Oh. Well, maybe we can go out to Stinson afterwards, bring Lord Jagannath to see him. What do you think? Then I popped the clutch and started up the Page Street hill. But so many people were dancing in front, so many kids and dogs running back and forth, that I had to keep shoving in the clutch and hitting the brakes. Halfway up the hill, I was a bit late with the clutch, and the truck died. Total chaos. I cranked the emergency brake, keeping left foot on clutch, right foot on accelerator. Flooded. Turning the key, start. Finally, and the engine starts. Now, 1 foot on brake, 1 on clutch, release emergency brake and take foot off brake while hitting the accelerator, all at the same time, with this huge load of devotees, the Lord, his entourage, and a ton of equipment. We start rolling backwards, thump, we hit something. I pound the accelerator and the truck jerks forward up the steep hill, and nobody even notices. Anybody hurt? I yell at Mukunda as he jumps into the cab, shoving Ralph aside. No, Ralph is the dog. No, but the generator is so noisy, we can't hear the kirtan. We decide to bring Tiny Tiger into the cab since we've reached level ground and I can safely stop. Ralph gets kicked out. Fumes and noise from the little generator are horrible, even with their windows open. Mukunda stays with me for a while, but he has to keep jumping out to check on things and lead the kirtan. Somehow, very slowly, a few hours later, we make it to Ocean Beach and park the truck. I stagger out into the fresh sea air and join the kirtan. There's a picture. Subhadra is facing the back of the truck, and then Jagannath's one side, and Balaram's the other side. It's like a triangle, like a singer-song. They're not facing all forward or backward. There's 3 different ways. After a few hours of kirtan at the bench, it was midsummer in San Francisco, so it stayed light until about 9 p.m. A bunch of devotees piled onto the back of the rented truck, and we drove with Jagannath Didis 25 miles out to see Swamiji in Stinson Beach. The last 12 miles on Highway 1 over the flanks of Mount Tamalpais are very twisty, and with no sides on the truck, everyone had to hold on for dear life. When we got to Paradiso House, the Swamiji greeted us in a jolly mood, like his children coming home from the war. Everyone cried tears of joy. We described our adventures of the day, and he said, ours had the same, ours had the same tone of madness, near accident, and jubilation as the sacred Ratha Yatra festivals in India. Prabhupada was very happy. Yes, in Puri, sometimes the cart will roll backwards, and only with great effort can they make it move. Krishna enjoys this sporting adventure, seeing his devotees cry out for him. The devotees were offloaded with care and installed in the Swami's beach house, where they would remain for a few days for vacation. Wow. And then Prabhupada wrote a letter. We'll finish with this letter to Brahmananda. On the plane from New York, I had no inconvenience, and I and all the Puris brought by Kirtananda. Sometimes on the way, there was a little long jerking air pockets, and I got a little. Anyway, I got down safely and were received by the anxious devotees here. Jayananda, in a nice cart, brought me to the house, which is situated in an exceptionally nice spot, and the house itself is aristocratic. The only difficulty is that I cannot go to the temple on account of the zigzag course of the road in crossing the mountains. Anyway, the devotees are coming here, and the Rathyatra Festival was performed with great pomp. More than 500 people followed the procession to the beach, and there were about 24 cars. They distributed thousands of chapatis, and at last Sri Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev came here in our house and will stay here for 1 week and then return. So far my health is concerned. on the whole, it is nice. But sometimes I feel not so good. Everything depends on Krishna, and as he desires, it will happen. Jagannath Swami's king. I heard that, I think he said it in Leelamrita, that Prabhupada said, when everybody came to Stinson Beach, the house where Prabhupada was staying, he said, "Where's Yamuna? Yamuna's not come." They said, "Oh, somebody put LSD in the orange juice." So she became tripped out and she couldn't come. She didn't want to come to see Prabhupada when she was taking LSD. She didn't come. So anyway, I thought I'd read this. So thank you very much. Jagannath Swami ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. So today you can remember. Today is the, how many? Third? Fourth? Fifth? Köln Ratha Yatra. How many? 15. 15?
Yeah.
15.
This is not sure, but I hear that you have to ask some located devotees.
Today is also the official day of return of Radha in India. The Ratha Yatra comes back.
Oh.
It's the official day.
There's some mention here of return also. We don't have time now. It's time for prasadam. We've got to get moving for Ratha Yatra. Srila Prabhupada King. Jagannath Ratha Yatra King.
Mahavishnuswami ki. Gresham Prabhu ki.
Malati Mataji King. Malati. Did Malati ever come here? Malati came here. Hare Krishna, Nanda Kumara.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Kumara.
Nanda Kumara, Radha Gopala.